had $1,240,002.27. The payroll account has $12,515.10. The CD is at $2,023,449.14. And of course, in the construction account, there's $4.6 million.
Okay. Project discussion. You want to do the administrative report? Got that down last. You want to do it?
You'll go ahead and do that?
I'll do the administrative report.
So our census today is 97. Home delivered meals is staying pretty steady, 40. We had an emergency repair that we're gonna have to do to the elevator, and Billy was here last week and I shared the information with him. We've got 3 bids, to replace the pump unit.
Okay.
And so we went ahead and went with the lowest, best bid. United Elevator Services is who we use to do our elevator, service now. And they had the lowest bid at $14,575.
What's wrong with it?
It's well, it needs to be modernized. It's the
Wore
pump
out.
unit. Yeah, it's 23 years old. And so, I also got a
That's not
bid.
what's wrong with it, what's wrong with it? I mean, you said it's just
She
old.
said the pump
The
was
pump
out.
unit.
It's what?
Pump unit. is
Okay, I
out
didn't hear
right.
that. Thank
Okay.
you.
And so Nashville Machine Elevator gave us a bid of $690.
They're gonna put a unit in.
No, the next one is when we put the unit in.
That's what went out the courthouse, we had to put in on there too, the pump
Yeah.
unit,
Oh,
went out,
yeah.
we had to put all it in the end.
But there's other things along, I mean, there's other parts of it that's gonna have to be modernized, so, but this will get it up and going, okay? And so he said about 2 weeks out. So
What are
You
they
put in
doing now?
another bid,
Just-
but they didn't respond back.
Well,
The third bid,
the
but
third
they didn't
bid,
respond.
the third bid is Cone Elevators out of Nashville. They did not come on site to look, they just estimated 28,500 for the pump unit. So United Elevator, we've dealt with them, and so that's who we chose.
What are they doing now, Jennifer? They just coming up downstairs? Or is it working?
Yes, no, it's not working.
It's not
The
working
elevator
at
is
all.
not working right now.
So,
No.
okay.
So on pretty days, we're going around. Other days, we've set up a room for therapy upstairs.
Okay.
Just for
How long
the-
has it been out?
Oh, my goodness.
About a week.
Ugh. That's hard on them little elderlies.
Yes, it is. But some of them like to get outside.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
it's good. We also had yesterday active shooter training for all of our staff. Livingston Police Department provided that. Greg Etheridge came over and did 3 different in-services with our, all of our staff. So we were proud of that. So hope it never happens, but we've had some good training on it. And then the personnel report is behind there. I asked, Jimmy Job, from Job Hastings and Associates to be here tonight to maybe give us a brief overview of our financials and where we are and how our reimbursement system works, and he has 35 years maybe in the long-term care industry, auditing and different things, so, okay, Jimmy.
Okay, well, I know part of the consideration of the board is this project that you're looking at. I know the prices came in a little higher than you expected, so part of this look was just to kind of give you an overview of where you stand and how strong the financial position is. So I've put together a summary, and y'all just pass these around.
Yeah, I believe we did.
I don't want to give you too many numbers, but
I see another Billy.
been doing the audit for many years now, and we appreciate the board continuing to let us do the audit, but, because of that, we've got a lot of familiarity with the facility and how the financial condition has been. And I actually looked back 10 years, but I put the last 5 years here on this summary. And trying to gauge, how much reserve that you need to have as far as just an operating reserve just to protect yourself from, anything bad that can happen. And looking at the cash and how that's changed over the years. And I'll just say that Overton County, the nursing home here has been in excellent financial position for years. And it's unusual in the industry now because there's a lot of struggling with census across the state. Many facilities, and we have a lot of clients that are in the nursing home business, and a lot of them are struggling, have been for a few years because of the census problems. Here in Overton County, of course, you don't, this is the facility that's here. It's not real rural, but just enough so that there's not a lot of choice. And then they've done an excellent job here, just excellent reputation and being a good facility to come to, providing good care. So that's helped their income, and we've also been able to maintain some pretty good reimbursement rates from Medicaid and Medicare. So if you look at that over the last 10 years, there's been 2 years where you've had losses, just 2 years, but the average net income for those 10 years is $472,000 a year. So that's pretty strong. That number down there at the bottom. But I also looked at the cash for the last 5 years, and you'll see here the last column on the right, the total cash that's available or was available at June 30th was $3,350,000. And what we try to do is say, how much of that do we need to hold back to reserve in case something catastrophic happens? And generally, a good number would be about 3 months of expenses. And what that means is if the revenue for some reason just stopped today, that you could operate the facility for 3 months without having to borrow money or get additional funds from somewhere else. Now, I can't think of a situation where all the revenue would stop, but that's just, if that happened, if something just terrible happened and they shut it down, you could have the time to transition patients to other facilities and kind of wind down in that 3-month period. So 3 months is a good figure. What we've got here, and looking at what your reserve would be, it's your cash you have available, but it's also receivables, because the receivables are almost as good as cash. And Charlotte does an excellent job of collecting those, so they're all good. So we look at the cash and receivables, and then subtract out what liabilities you got to pay within the next few months, and that's called the net working capital. And you'll see there, June 30th of 18, the working capital was $3.7 million, $3,795,000. And that equates to about a little over 5 months of operating funds, of expenses, 5.11. So you can see you've got excess reserve if
Right.
we're
Okay.
using.
Are you saying that this is the cash, unrestricted cash all year long, right?
That's the balance.
Balance, okay.
At the end of
Right.
June. Yeah.
And then this is how much we spent, working capital, that we're spending?
No, this includes, this 4.7 million
Mhm.
figure, that
Yeah.
includes cash, that includes this number.
These two together?
No, it includes this number plus your accounts receivable, basically.
Right.
So it's cash and things that are gonna be cash pretty soon.
And
then-
this is the liability coming out, another $925.
Yes, that's what you owed at June 30th, that had to be paid, like payroll and things like that that were due.
What about our college, is it figured in here too? You know, across the road?
Yes, yes.
And what is it, how much we pay a year on that, or by the, you know, how much do we pay on the college a year? Total amount,
You're talking about for
to reimburse the payment of the college, not
the
all.
bond,
Yeah.
the bond
The
payment?
debt.
Yeah,
It's, the principal payment's about $175,000. Then there'll be interest on top of that.
right,
But it's in this,
no, it's not.
uh-huh.
You say what in?
Well, the expenses, down here, the
Oh.
expenses, that does include
The college,
the cottage
or
expenses.
electricity, or water bill, phone bill, and all that.
Operations, operating cost, that's, and so if I divide that $8.9 million down at the bottom there is total expenses, that includes this building, those cottages, everything on the campus.
Mhm.
It's $8,914,000 a year. And you divide that by 12 to get the monthly expenses, and that includes things like depreciation, which is really not a cash expense, but it includes that. And that, this number here that we've got available,
Mhm.
the net working capital is 5.1 months of expenses.
Where do we capture the $175,000 a year, right here out of the operating expense? Or is it even, is it in there?
The principal is not.
Not in there, so we should add that back to that,
Well, that's,
the 89, it's an expenditure, right?
it is
And we
cash
pay it,
expenditure.
So we would add that back to our total expenditure for the year.
And then what you would subtract is depreciation,
Right.
which is like a $250,000.
But that much on a new building would be that much? The building being 2-year-old,
Yeah.
I'm just, that's the way I don't know.
Yeah, that's about what it is.
So actual cash on hand would be what then?
So actual cash on hand is up here.
Right, but I'm talking about after you.
Expenses.
Yeah, after you get all this in here, what is the cap?
They pretty much wash out, if you wash out
So they're
depreciation
even.
against the principal you have to pay, they kind of offset. So this number is pretty close to what you would have in cash expenses.
Does that include our CD that we got money in?
It does not include the bond proceeds funds.
No,
It includes the $2 million.
she's
It
talking about.
does include the 2 million?
It does include it, yes.
So, okay. So to get a true number of what we spend, we would take the 2 million out of that, out of the revenue part?
No, that's the true number of what you spend.
I mean, this is operating revenue, this is a true number.
The only revenue would be the
But I'm talking about the
interest.
revenue, does that 2 million come off of the revenue
It's
there?
not,
No.
revenue is what we bring in.
But I mean, the interest off the 2 million, or you don't.
That's, the interest
it's
is in
in
the
there,
operating
it's here.
expense.
Why wouldn't it not be taken off?
The
So
interest
you're,
is.
you're talking about the interest on the
That you
CD?
draw on the CD, that would be
Yes.
the revenue.
We're
Yes,
talking about.
it's
Oh, I'm
this
sorry, I
is
thought you were
cash
talking about the
in
bond
bank.
Paid for
payment
the
interest.
That's what.
This is cash in the bank
Okay.
here. That's what we got in the bank.
Okay.
This is how much we collected over the year
Okay.
in total revenues, and this is how much expenses over the year. So this is an asset, and this is revenues and expenses.
So when we started the year, we had $3.3 million start off,
That's right.
roughly.
$3.3 million. And, like I say, 3 times 3 months of expenditures is kind of a good rule of thumb. And like I said, there's not many facilities that even have one now. A lot of places, especially for-profit facilities are struggling. But now we also represent Community Care of Rutherford County, and they've been doing well. They're a county facility. But part of the reason they do well is the county owns the building and leases it to them for $1 a year. So the county absorbs that cost. Here in Overton County, of course, the nursing home has been self-sufficient and has paid for its building, and it had a profit of $472,000 a year on top of that. So So to get that number, if you chose to use some of your reserves to go against or go for this new building, you could spend up to about $1.5 million and still have a 3-month reserve.
Cash in hand in the bank.
You could
That way you
spend
go get
$1.5 million of your cash.
of the CD or just cash?
Of the CD.
Okay.
Or whatever cash,
Mhm.
and still have a 3.
Wow.
I'd hate to go over $1 million.
Well,
Well, I mean, I think he's
see that.
saying,
He's
with
saying-
our operating account being at 1.3, 1.4 million, plus the CD, $1.5 million of, when you're looking at the total cash that we have, that's unrestricted.
And that doesn't mean you have to spend that much, that just means you still would be.
That you could spend it and
You could
be
spend up to
okay.
that much and still have a comfortable reserve. And, you know, and that's certainly up to this board whether you spend that money. The reimbursement system at Medicaid now has just changed. It changed back in July. And it changed in such a way that the building cost benefits you more now. A new building will benefit your Medicaid rate, so it'll come back, you know, in a better rate. So that's one positive of the new change. The change is gonna benefit us here. It already has. The rate is, Medicaid rate's some 227. And just, you know, a year ago, it was
197.
Yeah, about 198.
So the new reimbursement, there's some facilities that have lost on the new Medicaid rate, but this one has picked up quite a bit, so.
Why have they lost on the Medicare rate? Because the building?
Medicaid.
And the Medicare rate, yeah. I know.
Medicaid rate, well, part of it is that they have a lot of older buildings. And this one, we did get the cottages, as part of the new
New
rate,
rate.
so that has helped. And a lot of the other facilities don't have
They don't have the new,
buildings, so they're having to get reimbursed based on what that building, it's called a fair rental value, but an old building is not worth much
yeah.
on fair rental value.
Jimmy, do you mind to touch a little bit on a few of the other components, the satisfaction? You know, it's just not,
It's not just.
Capital improvements.
Just capital improvements, it's also based on, of course, nursing costs, they're really stressing direct care cost. So, nursing cost is a big component of the rate. They're trying to get more toward quality measures, so quality of care comes into play, and there's different ways that they measure that, and they rank facilities in the state based on their quality. And there's a pool of money that they divide among all the nursing homes based on how you rank in this quality. And then, of course, the building is a component as well. And then everything else overhead is a component, and it has a limit on overhead that you can charge. Direct care is not limited. It's based on just what it costs.
And I think we're going to have to go to, patient satisfaction surveys, right, that are.
We've been doing those,
Right.
but
These-
they've allowed us, our facilities to do their own, but now they are going to require standardized across the state.
And that will be figured in as part of our quality and part of our
And
rate.
so from those surveys, then we have to come up with different projects to come up with to improve. So whatever negative outcomes we have, we show improvements in that, and that affects our reimbursement.
Another thing that kinda gives you an advantage, if, especially since you did this project back here, you know, that attracts, Medicare and Medicaid traditionally, especially Medicaid, they don't have a lot of choice in the facility that they go to. They have to just, you know, go where they're paid. When you have a nicer facility, of course, all the baby boomers are demanding, I'm one, so I can say that, demanding more frills, I guess you'd say, and so you're attracting more private pay and insurance pay, which generally will pay at a higher rate. So, it's another advantage to having the nicer building. But, I mean, like I say, you've done very well as far as financial performance over the last 10 years.
Ashley, you got any input?
One thing, I think this is a good analysis he's done, he's prepared for y'all. It really, I think, presents it in a good formal way there. The one thing to think about as you go into 19, your principal and interest payments on the new bond issue will go up some. So that will impact a little bit of your, as far as your bottom line figure, net income. You'll have some additional principal and interest. So on the cottages loan, it's $175,000 principal plus $82,506. So $257,506 for the cottages for 19, and then you'll have approximately on the new portion about $310,000 there. So your debt service is going to be about $575,000. So that model, when we did this originally, when we financed it originally, we built it around having those rooms in place and that revenue coming in, or a portion of it. I don't think you figured all of it. You figured a conservative estimate. But just something to think about as you go forward. Your debt service will go up a little bit, but I think this is all, everything's in agreement with what I had analyzed as well.
And part of my point on the newer building is that you would expect it to generate more revenue than leaving things as they are. So you would hope, and I think there's a good case for it, that the revenue would be much higher with newer.
I think we had figured about $650,000 in additional revenue in 19. For 19, that's right, with the new addition being in place and, you know, bringing in that additional revenue.
Well, that being said, the 310 and the extra 82 would balance against that, or add to that, or subtract to that, get the additional cost on an average, something.
The interest part of that
which would be the 82.
Yeah,
Okay.
the interest would come out of that.
All right.
Yeah, so he's looking at it from an operating, working capital standpoint, and then from a debt service standpoint, you know, if you're at that, I figured if you're at that 10.2 million revenue, which Medicaid maybe makes up for some of that, and then you can get some of these rooms online, then you're like a 1.77 debt service coverage. So that gives you more than adequate debt service coverage to do that, take on that new debt service and all. So I had figured all the cottages and the other debt service into that.
Anybody else got any questions?
I think you covered it fairly well.
You still want to continue to be the architect?
Yes, sir.
Well, that question hasn't been asked now. Well, everything you've been through here this last half a year, I didn't know if you wanted to keep it or not.
Very much so. I've got too much skin in the game, man. I told Jennifer, I said, yeah, come December, I'll be on this project 2 years.
Yes.
It's been in the making for a while, so.
Well, tell us where we're going next.
Well, what I've been trying to do, and what Jennifer asked me to do, I guess it was beginning of last week, she called me and kind of explained the situation at hand and caught me up on things as best she could. And I immediately pulled in Ron, my boss, and Michael, who you met, I think, the last time we were here. Talked to them about it, and, what we decided to do was contact DeAngelis Diamond.
Who?
The contractor
Very
who
natural.
bid last time, right. And, we didn't go into a lot of detail, we didn't discuss your finances in detail. And we didn't say, hey, they're ready to sign a letter of intent with you guys and start the project, but I said, look, they're kind of in between a rock and a hard place right now. And what they've asked us to do is look at either value engineering the project or partial redesign or whole redesign. You know, there's these different options out on the table of things that we can do to try to cut the cost down. What do you guys, we need you to work with us, you know, between now and this board meeting to try to come up with some ideas of what we can do.
Well, I mean, what do you wanna focus on, Kevin? You wanna focus on the rehab side, or?
We have to focus on the
Okay,
rehab
so
side. I mean,
that's-
That's where the money is.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
All right, we're looking at rehab.
so we discussed some options. We've talked about VE before, and I'll talk about that and then I'll come back to that.
Okay.
But, we said, guys, what if we broke this thing up into packages? We could do a demolition package, or we could do demo, site prep, foundation together package. And get that started so they can have something to start with. Before we scrap the design, this is all taking into account, we stay basically with the footprint and the design that we have. If we did that, can you give us a number for that, a duration of construction time? Might give them some more time to find some more money. That's something to take into
Who can find some more
consideration.
Who?
The county, yes.
Okay, the county and I don't find more money. That's what we think.
Us get more revenue.
And or the facility. So, and then I had prepared a list that we had tried to start working for with the previous round of bidding with Mid-State, and we didn't get very far because they just didn't offer to do a whole lot for us. But we had started a list of VE items, value engineering, things to take out of the project, get the cost down.
But now this,
And-
with what you just said, that changed the whole scope of what we got, cause you did it for a plan for how many beds? Was it
For 20, so.
20
let me
beds
finish.
plus the rehab side?
So the third thing that we asked them to do is, guys, if we shell the building, keep the design, and build out half the inside, and keep so many rooms, and then we could also build out this part of the interior of the building and keep so many rooms. Get this out. It's a little bit easier to look at. Some stuff that I was diagramming out for them. Can you give us some numbers for that, to break it up into pieces? You know, we could build out this much of the interior, you know, 1/3, 2/3, 3/4. Give us some numbers to work with. And so what they came up with, then they said, well, we can give you a range. Construction duration's a little bit harder to identify at this point. That was getting into a little bit, you know, deeper. So the first scenario we asked is, what if we build out this portion of the building, which is close to 9,000 square feet, and leave out build the whole building, okay? Build the whole building, build the interiors for this green part here, which is close to 9,000 square feet, and shell this other almost 7,000 square feet. And they gave us a range that really wasn't quite what we were hoping for. They came up with something between 5.75, I think, and 6.2 or $3 million to do this part first. And then we said, well, what if we do 3/4 and just leave out these rooms here on the end, which would build out 12 rooms and leave 8. I think it was 12 and 8. And they gave us a range that was a little bit higher. I think it was 6.2 to 6.4 in that, so like 6.2 or 3 to 6.4 or 5. But that would give you the majority of your rooms, obviously. The caveat with doing the first one, which was the better number, the little bit lower number, is we'd have to temporarily relocate the living room and the dining room over here to this side, which you'd lose a couple other rooms. So actually, that scheme, you don't have 12 rooms, you don't have 8, you have like 6. So you have significantly less rooms doing that. Because those spaces would then have to happen in phase 2 and move back over here. It's a little bit complicated. It's kind of shuffling up the space inside the building to do the first one. So we're not seeing huge, reductions in cost there, we weren't really expecting huge reductions in cost. But that is a way to stagger the construction and get part of it underway. Now, we asked them to break out for doing a demo, full site prep, all site utilities underground, and the building foundation and pad. And they came up with a number, range of 1.8 to just over 2 million to do that. And we asked them, what about demo only? And they said, well, that was this afternoon, right before I came up here. They're like, we can't give you that today. But Ron and I were knocking around some numbers, my boss and I. And we think you could probably do the demo package and some minimal site prep that would be required after you tear down the building, with some minimal construction, rebuild where the building's been sheared off from the old building, which would be required, and a little bit work over here on the end of wing 2 to move her office and have a small lobby space in for around $300,000 to $350,000. So in other words, if you wanted to get shovels in the ground ASAP.
But we wouldn't bring any more revenue in.
That's correct. And even the other two schemes that I was showing, you'll have less rooms
Well,
with both scenarios.
and we've only got 2 years to spend this money before we have to start paying for it full, so, you know,
We've got
being
lots of
in the
money.
shell, that's not gonna benefit anything, is it?
No.
Not a thing. You know, how many rooms are you thinking about doing for your rehab?
The whole thing is 20, the whole,
Yeah, the whole thing is
Oh,
the
20
rehab.
yeah.
And with those 20 rooms comes the brand new state-of-the-art therapy gym to go
Yeah,
with
this
it.
whole
So
thing.
all the rooms are gonna be
Utilizing
Medicare
this.
certified.
So then the
for
question
rehab.
comes, Joey, would they be willing to value engineer the whole project?
So yes,
down?
and actually we gave them the list that we had started with last time, and we started working through that, and I was a little bit disappointed because there were several items that I thought were worth a pretty good bit of money that they didn't even throw a number at. But, that being said, they actually came up with a number which was more than I thought it was gonna be, and when I tally all these things, this is reducing finishes on the outside, reducing some of the quality of finishes on the inside. I can show you the list or go down it, but it tallied up to about 230, 240, and I actually think we could probably get that closer to 280 or 300 if we really pushed it to the extreme, without changing the square footage, without changing the floor plan design, without changing the overall design of the outside of the building. We're talking about going to all siding, take all the stone off the outside of the building, even go to vinyl siding.
Well,
Go to cheaper shingle, cheaper membrane roof, cheaper floor finishes, cheaper ceiling tile, cheaper doors, door hardware. I mean, everything down the line, we would have to try to affect as many things as we could, but that would be about probably as much as you would be able to value engineer.
So what if we changed the whole front, look at it like, make it look like a cottage down here? That would save a lot of dirt work out here, wouldn't it?
Yeah, we wouldn't have to do any
Take off those
landscape.
big high things that's sticking up there in there that ain't gonna do nothing for birds to light on.
I'm not sure if I.
He's talking the outside.
I'm talking about the
Tower
outside of the
or all
building,
that.
make
We
it look,
asked them about
make it
that.
look like
All
the
this
cottage
up front.
instead of,
You know,
Well,
talking
we
about
took
it.
out the structural retaining wall when we redesigned the project, so we managed to do that already, which was a pretty big cost. And they benched it and we're doing it with keystone retaining wall, which is cheaper. The tower design, I mean, yeah, we can take the tower out. The problem is she still has to have a lobby, you still have to have the square footage. So how much that would save, I don't know, we did not ask them. But we could take the porches off the front of the building, those could be added later. I mean, yeah, I mean, we can.
but we would have to have one for the ambulance too.
Yeah,
Oh,
you would
okay,
still,
not
we
you.
could change the design of that, as simple as that.
We've got $1.6 million, maybe another $1 million, which put it at 5, if everybody agrees to do the million, but, so that, we gotta get it down there before we do it.
But
That's
are
all
you
we've got.
talking about a complete project, you just talking about partial, the way you're talking about doing this?
Well, I mean, those two those ranges were for doing what I mentioned before. To get it closer to 6 million would be to do the whole building as it is currently designed, build out this portion in green, leave the blue out for a future phase 2, basically.
You
So it
talking
wouldn't
about, you're
provide
talking about
any-
drying it in, right?
Yeah,
pretty much.
yeah.
But there was,
It's
the
shell.
room's gonna be occupied.
Shell space would be no slab,
I don't
it
think
would
we
be
did that.
roughed-in utilities for
With nothing in
plumbing.
there.
But
I
nothing
think we
in
need
there.
to build
You
what
put-
we can afford to build.
I'll make the money.
Yeah, even if we have to redesign it.
Whatever we're gonna do, I don't believe in shell, and I don't believe in that, no, I'm not doing
How much
that.
was that last bid?
What's it?
6.8, 6,799.
Well, by doing this takes away from our revenue too. You see, you got to remember that. I mean, we
The
just do a
question
shell,
is, yeah,
takes away the
do we
revenue.
want to leave the project as is and try to value engineer it to what we can afford? That's the question right now, because we've got it designed, if we choose to design something else, it's gonna be another cost.
I can tell you, I mean, could the project be totally redesigned and be cheaper? Yes. Is it gonna be $2 million cheaper for the same amount of square footage? Or whether it's me doing it or another architect, I mean, we've already been down this road once, guys. We cut almost a third of the building off, and the price did come down, but the square footage cost went up. I mean, the market that we're dealing with right now, that's the reality of what's going on.
How many rooms did you say you had to have?
12 to 15 is a good number.
To start with.
Staffing, that works.
And that would be building out all of this except for this part.
That would build out what now, Joey?
That would be building the
All
whole.
the green?
All the green and this part of the blue to the orange, that would be building out all of this and leaving that part out, those 8 rooms.
And that's how many dollars?
7.
That'll be 6 million, what you say?
7. We could actually move that line inside the building where, you know, that could shift around to some degree. I mean, we could change the numbers of rooms up a little bit.
I don't like the idea of a shell, I'd like to finish what we start.
So, but also,
Complete.
the cost to finish it out, Joey, was only like, what, 300,000?
Yeah, they were giving us a number, that's what's killing me is $110 a square foot. You know, this whole project was
Finish it out.
bidding, I mean, their bid number was pushing $500 a square foot. I'm like,
That
how
don't
is
make
the,
sense. If
how
you're gonna
is the
finish it out
inside
for
of the building only
$110,
$110 a square foot,
That don't
guys?
add up.
That's what
That
they,
don't add at all.
that's what they're giving me,
That don't add.
so.
Well, you know, we may have to cut all the, like Randall said, we cut all the bells and whistles off of it, scat it back to it like a building like we're in and go from there. May have to do that.
Whatever we build, I'd like to complete.
You got
what
it
we
right,
build.
that's what I say, yeah.
What kind of cost would it be to redesign again and we did a different
I
design?
mean, that's hard to say. I mean, we'd have to sit down and start putting paper and pencil on a redesign and figure out what exactly we're talking about redesign. What animal we're trying to come up with. You know, just keep in mind, I mean, we did this building like the cottages, aesthetically, structurally. So anything that y'all are talking about is gonna be significantly less than the cottages, okay? I just want you to realize that. So if you think y'all can be happy with that and get by with that and bill like this man is saying for Medicare and Medicaid and get the people in here, you know, I'm just saying, that's what we originally started with, was the cottages. Short of our tower feature in the front and a porch, it's the cottages. So, you know.
There was a lot of demolition that was gonna have to take place out here, a lot of dirt you had moved to build that wall and stuff up. That would take out a lot of dollars out of it if we didn't have to do all that.
I thought we'd done that though, Randall.
We have done
We-
I
that
thought
as best
we
we
did.
could, yeah. There is a lot of site utility work. I mean, unfortunately, we're not building on the front of the building, all trees are right through the front of the building. So we've got that going against us, and we have this tie-in to your 50 or 60-year-old low-bearing concrete and masonry wall building over here that's bi-level where we're tying in. It's just complicated. That's part of what's driving the cost up, guys. I mean, cottage is a freestanding building. It's always gonna be cheaper than addition renovation to a 60-year-old bomb shelter over building. So, just trying to be honest.
Are the bids from the construction company that you're getting, are they from this area, or are they from Nashville, or where are they
For
coming
this
from?
last round of bidding we did, we had one contractor bid, and it was D'Angelo Diamond, and they're out of Franklin.
The previous bids, we had locals.
That's correct.
You know who they are?
They chose not to.
You know who they come?
cheaper.
Yeah, I'm familiar with the entrance times, I just didn't know the distance would add to some of the cost, yeah.
So if it's property here, had enough room to build this new part and not tear all this down, I mean, you saying that would be a lot cheaper than trying to tear this and
Yeah.
go into this. I mean, is there room on this property to do this new part and not tear all this out and do this where it would?
You can see from here the distance to the street and the hill that's there.
Cause I mean,
It's
it goes
just-
all the way, you know, of course, I don't know.
It goes
if
to
you
the
want-
next street over.
It goes to the bypass.
Our current design, the way that it's laid out, you know, we had to get a variance because our overhang on our drive-through for drop-off is at the building setback. I mean, that's as far as you can go with building is right there. Now, if you
Put it
wanted to
down
push
over
it
here next to the
forward
school.
and pull it away
Much
from this
room we got
building, that's
over there.
fine, but then you've gotta figure out how to get people up to drop off and the way your parking lot is or your one-way traffic, it's just.
Well, you would take part of the parking lot, build another building, move the parking lot over
Next to the
to the
senior.
senior center over there, part of it.
Actually, yeah.
What if the rehab was over there next to the senior center in that whole?
I don't know.
Well, keep in mind, guys, because we're still gonna have patients in this building.
I see that the problem with that is you have to still provide parking, and now you've taken away your parking, so you're displacing parking.
Well, we've
No,
got
right,
all
right.
this property over there in yours for bypass.
Yeah, we got all that over there.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got a good bit back there,
Yeah.
that's true.
But this is designed to use the kitchen that we have currently.
Yes, that's
I
correct.
thought
So if
you
we
were
do
building.
something,
Oh, yeah, all the
separate,
deliveries
just
come in
keep
off the
it-
parking lot over here,
Yeah.
so yes, that's laundry. That would make it kind of
Well, we'd have to go over there with it then. There's room over there. Build something like the cottage. There's room to put another one over there, I think.
Yeah, especially with 12 beds,
Yeah.
it'd be no problem.
What would that do to your kitchen, Jennifer?
well, we would have to redesign, of course, and,
Just
part of the
let me
issue
read.
there is the therapy staff would not be in this building. Do you understand what I'm saying? And so some of the patients here in this building, we also do what's called Part B therapy for our intermediate care patients. And so that, there would be some traveling to do, from building to building, which is not unfeasible. We would have to staff, dietary staff there if we build a kitchen in that area. Or we would not do that if we were building it like it is now.
But would we still have to do upgrades to this building if we built another building on
This
it?
building is gonna have to be maintained, yes. This,
Cause I know that's what you said, state dinged us on, well, they didn't ding us. They let us slide because we were building.
this building right here will have to be, if it stays here, will have to be maintained. Yes, we will be inspected everywhere.
I mean, I say that there's room over there, but, you know, you have to take out part of your hill over here, and by the time you do a building in the parking lot, I mean, it would be tight. I don't know how much square footage of a building we could fit. I mean, we can look at that, I mean, we could figure that out pretty quickly. How
Well,
much square footage.
yeah, why don't we just, you know, we need to tear it down and build it back the same place, similar to the same shape. What would that do? You know, that'd still give you your beds.
Yeah, you're talking about like take this and just move it?
Yeah, just take this out and then build right back in the same spot. And
What if
use
it's
the
not
same
connected?
square footage and everything.
What if it's not connected to the old building?
Well, the problem is.
Cause
you know,
it connects here already.
We'd have to pull out 20 feet, code separation, and then the problem is, I mean, again, we're at the building setback with the covered drop-off, so we'd have to
On this
reconfigure the
side.
entrance over here somewhere, and then it's into traffic and
I mean,
parking.
is that a big cost savings, I guess?
Well, then we're back to hauling in way more dirt and doing a structural retaining wall about 15 foot tall at the street out there.
Over here in front.
If you still wanted to have vehicular traffic in front of the building, which I'm assuming you would.
I thought, well, we were doing around the back for drop-off, and then visitor parking was gonna be on this end down here, is that not correct?
Yes, but this is.
So where's the drop-off back here?
I
Oh,
fear
yeah.
that, I
You're
fear
not
that
gonna-
doing this, disengaging it from the building, and then all the extra stuff we have to do up here.
Oh, That's what it's just
Yeah,
that.
it's,
I mean, basically, you just tear this one down and build it back close to similar to the same thing.
I
Is
think
what I'm
what Darwin
looking
talking
at.
about is the same,
Same design.
same
yeah.
layout as this
Yeah.
building is.
well, the problem is, these rooms don't meet code, they're not even
Well,
closed.
but you're tearing it down.
Look,
But we're
You're
gonna
tear it
tear it
down, we can
down
and
and
build
build
it
it
back up.
So we would have about half the amount of rooms. So how many rooms?
You said 12, is what we're looking at now, 12
Well, we
rooms.
wanted
Yeah,
20.
12.
We wanted 20, but we're down to
Yeah.
12.
Yeah, down to 12 now.
Right, so,
12 to 15.
you know, you see where we're going, what I'm trying to go with?
Yeah.
And there
We
wouldn't be
could
a
do
whole
that.
lot of, I mean, there'll be some changes, but not a great lot, would it?
Yeah, it would be a new design. pretty
Easy
much.
or hard design?
A new
No,
design.
yeah, it would
I'm
just be,
sorry, I have hard.
it would be a whole new design, basically.
Okay. But basically, would it get us enough money saved to do what we need to
See,
do?
that's the problem though, there's not enough square footage. You're talking about this large rehab space, a dining room, a living room, I mean, and all this core function. Your building right now is like the middle of this.
Right.
Why are we gonna have to have a dining room and we're not?
You have
Go.
to provide a
See,
dining
brother,
room.
all right, thanks for coming.
I can't tell you, I mean, I'd have to sit down and study.
Well, I mean, we just, you know, we got to tossing around, we do, you know, we have always wanted to build. Don't
We've
get me
got,
wrong.
you know, we've got the dining room back here.
We wanna be able to do it with what we got, you know.
Yeah, I
what
mean,
we
I'd have
got.
to try to get out, sketch paper and figure out how
If
many.
it's gonna
I mean,
cost more, we wouldn't wanna do it.
All right, what's the square footage right now, just in this building alone? I know you know that.
I'm trying to remember what it
It's
was.
about 20,000 square feet in it.
What we're gonna
Or
be
18.
tearing down,
Total.
No, I think it was more like 15 or 16.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, let
You mean to tear down?
Yeah, you know, to redo the building, to take this one down, like he's talking about, to build the other design.
Build back the same square
Build up-
foot?
Yeah, yeah.
That
Or
don't
less.
give us enough space.
But that depends on how much, you know, if it would work.
The other caveat to that is, if you ended up with less rooms, like, let's say 10 or 8, that's what you're stuck with.
And then, yeah,
Well,
we
how
don't
we
have
gonna do it?
room
We're
to
already
build
down to 12.
anymore.
I mean, that's not,
That's,
she doesn't.
I mean, I'm just saying, that's part of the discussion,
Oh.
so, I mean, it would be less rooms, and I don't know.
Cause you're already gonna lose these rooms here anyway with your design here. That's how many, 5 or 4?
7.
7 rooms right there with this design.
Plus the rest of the blue over this.
Yeah. So.
Plus the rest of it over the green.
Well, now,
If we
this-
start talking about reducing rooms, it's a whole new ballgame, guys, I mean, yeah, I agree with you, that's a different ballgame, so.
well, that's-
Reducing rooms reduces revenue. Listen, I just wanna be clear about that part.
We understand, I do, I understand completely, but, you know, I'll put it into where we can afford it, guys, is what I'm trying to do. Afford to do it.
well, if we build it, it's gonna have to be enough rooms in it to support it.
Which, we started out with 20 and we're down to 12.
Yeah.
Cause even in this design
We're
here,
down to 12
he's taking 7 out.
until we can get the revenue to finish it out to 20.
What he's saying though is, I think is what Jennifer's saying, I don't know, I'm just speculating here. Do the green, shell the blue out, and then when as Jennifer gets the extra money, we could finish up the blue. Well, I mean, it might be empty right now, but I mean,
Yeah, and she
Yeah,
might go
but you
raise the
don't
money
take
quick
4.
enough and have the contractor just go right into doing that.
cause
Yeah, but you're saying
Jennifer's saying maybe
$4.6 million
$300,000.
that you got borrowed, just spend, and you're not gonna have anything left to do anything additional. You know, you're gonna use all
Yeah,
your
but we
money.
get revenue. We
If
make
we
money.
spend it all,
I
we
heard you
design
already.
the building, we gonna,
The reason I said we need to build what we can build and finish, in my
Yeah.
opinion, that's all. I'm not prepared to build up nowhere for nothing, it won't work.
Well, he'll still have to do a redesign, correct, Joey?
I think
I
it's
mean,
confusing.
Which one of the
if we're
10 things
saying,
are we talking about?
how much money are we talking?
$2
We
million
gotta decide
base.
how much money we're willing to spend,
Mhm.
and then that's going to gauge the project. So if it is cutting the rooms quite a bit, then that's a redesign. So either
Listen,
way, it's a
We're
redesign.
going, he's done cut 7 out of this plan right here that you all said that you like. So that, if we had 20 starting with, and 7
The
from
plan
that.
I like is take the original bid, value engineer it down and get the full 20 beds.
You never get it low enough. He said that'd be hard to do, $2 million lower down.
Yeah,
That wouldn't work. So, we've gotta get away from that. We've gotta figure out a different way.
So are we saying
Time
we're
you
only
do
gonna
that, it'd
spend
probably be
4.6 million?
6.5 close to $7 million, when you get all done with it,
But,
right?
you know, there's been talk about
You
having
do it
three
three-
CD, that puts.
three
you
different
right
groups,
there.
you're gonna have closer to 9 or 10 if you ain't careful.
gonna be shooting 6.5 or more now.
Yeah.
Yeah, every day we sit here, the price is gonna go up, cost is gonna go up.
Well, the way
Well, I
I figure,
can't
we've got
understand.
5.6 million to spend on the building.
That's about it.
And that's taking half of her CD.
Plus our revenue over here. Right, Joe?
No, I think if we just add $1 million, it can come out of what's currently there.
So you figured it on, there needs to be 20 beds, or when you figured the revenue?
That is not.
This is
not
actual.
in.
This is
Yeah.
That's
that's
actual.
real.
That's you made, for this past year.
Right, but I'm just. I
$770,000.
thought maybe off the top of your head.
No, we haven't done a projection.
Well, we did with
But we
Ashley.
made 700 and something thousand last year, is that what you're
Yeah,
saying?
So with 12
770.
beds, Jennifer,
But
how much revenue will 12 beds bring a year with the current rate today?
12 beds, I would support it. We'd have to keep them all full all the time. But it would have to be attached to this building, because,
Well, if we build it and down to 12 beds and attach it.
but we gotta leave room to build more.
To do what?
In the future. We've got to have room to build more in the future.
But how many dollars roughly will 12 beds bring a year?
Actually,
What's $400 a day,
1.7.
million?
providing that they're all full.
Yeah.
Well, these will be.
1.7 a year, but now that's before any,
But
that's
all the money
before
we got's
anything's
right at 6
help or
million.
anything's stuck out of it. When
Right,
I'm
that's
talking
all,
about
revenue.
and
roughly.
money goes out, you know,
Gross
it's
revenue.
seven.
Gross revenue, yeah, what,
It's not gonna be enough, I don't think, to pay the bond. After the expenses are taken out.
Well, the other part of the equation is, again, now we're talking about rebidding again, and the last time we did that, after cutting a whole bunch of square foot, again, the square foot, the overall price came down some, but not near as much as.
Well, what
we
I
thought.
can't understand is that we're gonna shell that part there, if we shell it, and then you can build it for $300,000 on the
Finish it
inside,
up,
that
but
don't make sense
It
to
don't
me.
work.
It don't do
Well, if we
sense
can,
to
we
it.
need to go ahead and
Yeah.
finish it up
Yeah,
for the 300,000.
but when it comes time good, you won't be able to do it.
No.
Do
Be
you know-
$500
can we get the
a
price
square
locked in
foot.
now?
That's exactly.
Can you
right.
get
Can we
locked
get the
in?
price locked in now?
Joey?
Not to finish out not
Well,
to
I
finish
think kind of
out.
what they were alluding to, and some of what they sent me back was that, you know, they can guarantee their price on pieces and parts for about 60, 90 days.
Yeah.
So, like, if you were to do this and then wait more than 60, 90 days to pick up with the rest of it, they're gonna wanna have, you know, to adjust for escalation or whatever else.
Yeah.
Well, my opinion is, whatever we build, we've got like close to $6 million. Whatever we can build for that, that's what we need to build. If we can't, then I don't know. If we keep on redesigning, we're gonna have all the money in the redesigning.
It's
Right.
basically a
Sounds
redesign
about
here. This right here's basically a redesign. But if you start scaling all this stuff down, like take all this front frills off the front, like you was talking about, the tall ceiling and the hallway.
Different
Start
doors.
looking back on how we can cut some of
Just what we
it,
have, you know.
quality stuff, but cheap
Use
stuff.
what we have to have, you know,
Right.
I mean,
I would wanna put.
I would
that
like
back
to have
the
all
ambulance
gold
and see
doors
what
on
we
it,
come
but I
back
can't,
with,
because,
they might
you
tell
know,
me that
just
they're
what we,
never
you
gonna
know,
get close.
have just what we have to have.
I'm not saying it's not a valid
Sure,
question.
I
I didn't
but
say
would
I
wanna-
could, I said
This
we-
is all speculation right now. We're just trying to work together to come up with a
After
solution.
tonight, I can't.
Yeah,
That's all.
I would be surprised if they said we could get more than $400,000 or $500,000 out of this project without like significantly
Cut.
changing it and.
But that's
Well,
what
now,
you
you've
do.
already kinda done that in a way, cause
You
see,
want
with
mine?
with these 7 beds out, it's not gonna make no revenue, generate any revenue whatsoever.
400,000 to 500,000.
You know, you're
evaluating
more or
it.
less taking them out with this.
Anytime you
design
go
that
bid,
have.
you should have a good idea
right.
of what it's gonna cost to do it.
That's right.
So,
Yeah, you're talking about like you shell them?
well, that's what I say, you've already done it, you know, you've got it proposed here as empty. And so that's not gonna generate any revenue whatsoever.
Yeah, those 7 rooms are not there.
You know, so if you cut out that square footage and we just go to here, what would that do? Would that save any cost without building this portion of it? Or,
Like cutting off the end of the building.
yeah, put the building right here.
Now,
Just asking, that's all.
Yeah, but that's such a small piece, I mean, you would really wanna like almost cut the building in half, and we start, it's, that gets a little bit
But
complicated.
you see what I'm saying, it's not making us any money, you know, it's just sitting here
But
empty.
it potentially will make us money,
I can ask the contractor that, to break that out.
and it's only rooms.
I don't know.
Yeah, rooms, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
He said, yeah, take this and let's.
Right, just that section there, but you can't complete.
Well, I mean, that's all I'm trying to say, because it ain't gonna make you nothing, it's gonna cost you, is all it's gonna do.
But if we can build that and put that shell on there for, I don't know, what'd you say, 6 million?
He don't look any good.
No.
If, I'm saying if, I'm saying
We're
if,
just trying to get some
you
contingency.
know, and, maybe when we make the 700,000, we could take it, do one room at a time, you know?
What's the revenue gonna be with 20 beds?
We don't
That's what we
know.
projected.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what's crazy,
But-
actually.
Ashley has that.
What was that for 20 beds that year?
20 beds, I had 10.2,
You wanna look at it, Dawn?
10.269,684.
That's total, that's total.
Gross revenue for everything.
That's the gross revenue.
Yeah. That's all I had. I
That's
didn't
not
have it
just
broken
20
out.
beds, that's the whole
Cottages
thing.
plus
Whole
adding
facility.
20 beds, so I had your revenues growing from 8,000,008 and 17 up to 10.2, so about 1,000,004. That's right, and
Well, okay.
when it was all built
What's
out.
that? That's what
With,
it's about.
what'd you
with the
have
whole,
revenues
with the
in,
whole thing like you got now?
Right.
We cut more than that last time, and it kind of blew up
What'd
in
you
our
have,
face, so we
This is,
were-
this is what you.
Well, I mean,
I just don't know how much more taken out is gonna do us at this point. I can ask.
So this was done at the time, you know, your bonds were
Oh,
issued, so.
Yeah, when you get done with this meeting, can you recess until it gets an answer? So you don't have to.
Okay, so projected revenue for
yeah,
2018.
yeah.
Okay.
Do what?
2018
No,
projected revenue.
me.
You're on target with that.
How long do you think it'll
Yes,
take?
Based on
well,
what
we're actually
county is.
better.
It might be early
We're
next week.
projected
That's
9.1.
Okay, so.
The total revenue is
I just don't want to have to wait
9.7.
another whole
Yeah.
month.
I would imagine you're gonna be impacted
It'd be
by
probably
your
beginning of
construction
next week.
Okay.
some, your revenues may come down
Oh,
some.
another meeting?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I missed that part. Can you give me back?
I was just saying you may be impacted during your construction phase by your revenues coming down a little bit, just
Yeah,
so people know.
just temporarily.
Yeah, temporarily, right.
But it'll take you 10 days anyway to do it, so.
Yeah.
But what, so you're saying we're gonna get roughly 1.5 million more
That's what-
revenue
Based
a
on
year.
what, yeah, based on what Charla and Jennifer.
Out of the
give
20
you.
beds.
No, well, yeah, out of
Well-
the 20 beds, no, out
No,
of
out
20.
of the
I
20.
Well, now he's
I
done
don't-
cut this.
With everything.
No,
This-
we're
this
talking
is-
about what Ashley McNulty's.
Based on the
projected.
I know what
original
you're talking
issue.
about.
I'm talking about
What
based
is
on
that,
the original,
Jimmy?
with the
Oh,
beds
oh,
built in.
It's not.
Sorry.
I think we were just, we were
So
being
you're
conservative.
half of that,
Yes.
or more for expenses,
If you kept them all
so
forward,
we're probably
rehab,
looking about
But that's a job.
6.
yeah, it would, it
600,000.
would.
No.
What is,
That'd be
what is
nine.
the number on that?
Wouldn't worry about it if we did that.
Yeah.
Profit.
2.9.
Yeah.
Right,
Well, no,
so
did
we
y'all
were
figure
But it
being
did close.
conservative.
It closed.
So it gets
So
better.
Your,
Yes,
where,
we- yeah.
did you figure
I mean, we were
expenses
being
in your
Well-
original
conservative.
projections?
We're figuring that this
Looks
year.
like you did, cause it went from
Yes.
888
Yes.
to,
Yes.
so you're right, about 500,000 is what we figured on
So he-
expenses.
see what he can
So,
come up
so
with.
we're
Say
looking
we're
at
certified.
We
Eight-
had
eight
projected.
plus.
Come up with though.
8
Huh?
plus
What do we want him to come up with?
profit.
That's
The
right.
12 beds.
12 beds, is that what you're gonna try to work out?
I'll ask
Okay.
the contractor what he thinks of doing that.
But
When can you get
But
back
that's
with
when
us?
they go in
If I
there,
won't-
them 12
let's just
beds.
do it.
Middle of next week,
if
probably.
it won't pay out in 12, we need to look at enough to make it pay out.
What's gonna have to pay for
That's what
itself?
I'm saying. If 12 beds is not gonna, pay our bond payment, we're
Well-
cutting our nose off, spite our face.
Will it make the,
It'll
No,
meet- it'll
not
meet.
in the end.
It could probably cover the bond payment, but we couldn't make money to finish it out. Does that make sense?
yes.
Well, you couldn't, you're not gonna, if you put,
Well, I'd
leave up
be
7
not making
beds,
the
then you
bond
still
payment.
won't be able to either.
I
You know what?
think you could do both, cause you got, if you do $1 million for additional revenue and say $500,000 to 600,000, then you should see somewhere in that 800,000 net for the bond cost. The bonds are running 300,000 a year.
And that's beds.
Now that's actually doing less, I think you'd figure on 12 beds, or
12 beds.
something, whatever your original projections were on.
Is this
That's on
designed on
12.
12 beds? Is this
No,
latest,
it's designed on
latest
20 beds.
request?
It's
No,
20
it's for
beds.
20 bays.
But his figure's on
Cutting
12,
out that.
is what he's
Right,
talking about.
that's what I'm talking
What
about.
were they figured
He
on
could make,
originally?
said we could make it on 12.
When we did the
Well,
projections?
it's
Was at that time. plus
Yeah,
we
that's,
added
that's
some.
what,
If you cut
that's
that out,
what I'm
nine.
saying, what I'm, 7 beds. 13 beds.
So that would be,
Yeah, that's what I'm
we
saying.
wanna talk about the same
I
thing.
was saying 12, but it's actually
Okay.
13.
We knew.
No,
That's what we need, number 13.
Yeah.
We done
Well,
had
12
that.
sounds better.
So you can get that figured out, and we'll set up another meeting.
No,
whatever.
I'll make a motion that we recess this meeting and that we'll call it back in session next Wednesday at 5 o'clock.
Let me-
Do I have a second? Why? Yeah, we can recess it. Yeah. We can put this meeting in recess, cause this is a formal meeting.
I don't think we can next Wednesday.
Why? That's what he said he was gonna have
Well, we
ready.
can.
Or
After.
next Thursday.
I can't be here.
Wednesday.
Well, what's the next day after, or Thursday or Tuesday, either one, whichever day.
It'd have to be the first week, cause you know I ain't gonna be here the rest of the week.
Oh, that's right, I forgot. You won't be here, you won't be here Tuesday.
Yeah, I'll be
You leave
here.
Monday, no? Yeah, you leave, you're leaving, yeah,
Wednesday and Thursday of next week.
they got training next week. And you, where you gonna be all next week?
I'll be in Honewall Wednesday and Thursday. We got another project down there that's under construction. Problems.
Well, we don't wanna
So
rush.
What
what
if
are
we-
we
what if we
asking-
recess
what
it,
are
we don't have to
asking him
advertise
do?
it? Huh?
What are we asking him to do?
Bigger
The 12 beds. Looks like we
Design
talked
12
about,
beds.
yeah,
Without the shell or with the shell?
without it.
No, they're
Without the
saying,
shell.
yeah,
Out.
we're asking DeAngelis to go back and look
Without
at
the
cutting
shell.
off part of
Yeah.
the end of the building.
And then, you know, if we can cut some other places out to simplify it, look at that too, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I can ask them about taking the porches off.
End around
It's
six,
gonna be
yeah,
added
we can't
later.
do
Or the, yeah.
I mean, yeah, we can, I'll try to get as much in there as I can. We'll see what they say.
You can do it. You've been playing with this thing for
Well,
a year.
you
almost.
got
Keep
faith
in
in
mind,
me, Darryl.
they're still,
You got faith in me.
Yeah, they-
they're still doing this pro bono for us, so, yeah, I don't know how much.
Well,
they
we've
continue
done
to do
kind
that.
of what we had available to do the project from day one, so at some
And that
point, you
was-
kinda gotta figure out.
So what are we
We
gonna
know
try to
what we
make that?
got, we know what we have to work with, we just gotta make it work within that framework.
Are you not available next
In that,
Wednesday?
in that
He won't
scenario,
be here
12
next
days.
Wednesday or
Right,
Thursday.
okay, that's what I thought.
Can't do it next week,
When can
unless
you
you do
do
it Monday or Tuesday.
When,
You can't do it Monday or Tuesday.
Joey,
That'd
what would
be
give
week
you enough
after that.
time to get
Happy
something?
we got an extra.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't need to
Do we
rush,
have to
you don't
be
need to
here?
rush.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, we need to be.
Well, we can go ahead and adjourn, if we wanna do that, we can do the newspaper then, redo it.
Amount of the week of how long?
Could that be a week, like a week from Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday next
We
week?
don't have no.
The 29th
budget
is a
meeting
Monday.
then.
We
day that
got
Tuesday?
education.
29th is Monday.
23rd, 5 o'clock.
And we got the 1st and a meeting on the 1st. 31st is Halloween, so that's on Wednesday. Which has, it either has to be a Monday or a Friday.
That's all right.
Yeah, we can do it Friday.
Or different times?
December 2nd,
When?
November the 2nd, Friday.
29th's all right, with me if it is you guys.
We've already got one doing that.
Oh, we
I
do?
got 'em.
I don't have nothing.
I got 'em 29.
What
What
we got
was it,
29th?
highway?
I didn't
No,
know.
highway's the 1st of November.
No, we've got another one that we've added.
Public safety went to.
Public safety and
Public
highway's
safety
on the
was-
1st.
Oh, yes, that's the court meeting.
We got
right?
Yeah.
a public safety
Special
meeting.
call.
Oh, call
And
me.
it goes with, Lily Ann's gonna be there.
It's 5:30 and 6, you could do it at
So do we
5.
have anything
Everybody
the
has
29th? Or we make it the 29th?
Huh?
Have you got something the 29th?
29th and the 1st.
Yes.
What about meeting here at 4 on the 29th?
That's, I guess I can tell them way away.
What about
from
4
TV.
o'clock? I'll leave work early,
Yeah.
on the 29th,
And Jill-
4 o'clock.
Election ain't over.
Is that okay
I
with
don't
you?
have no problem leaving it.
Okay, let's do the 29th at 4 o'clock here.
Okay.
Can we recess it that long? Cause we
Well,
probably.
Well, we'll, I'll just make motion, we'll adjourn.
Yes, you can.
Wait a
It'd be
minute,
4:30, cause I don't get through the bus till.
well,
Yeah, you
we
make.
probably need to recess this, that way we don't have to advertise it. Cause we won't have hardly 2 weeks if we do that, come back on the 29th. We won't have a full 2 weeks, so if we
Well,
recess the
It'll be in
meeting.
the paper 2 weeks. It'll be in the paper on the
You
22nd
don't have
and
to
the
have
29th.
my 2 weeks.
It'll come out, it'll go in the
Whatever.
paper on the 22nd and also the 29th, the day of the meeting, so that's two,
That's fine.
It's on Monday.
that's two running.
29th at 4:30,
4:30.
That's fine.
alright. Nice to meet you.
Still working.
No problems,
Nice to meet
only
somebody I ain't seen.
solutions.
I wonder if you-
That's a good motto.
It is, I would, I have to help.